So I spent years in therapy and even trained as a psychologist to try and fix some of my own patterns. But moving to Portugal changed more in 9 months than therapy did in a decade. So let's talk about why. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica and I share bits of my life here in Portugal, including some of the internal stuff. So here are 3 specific things that living here in Portugal taught me that years of therapy didn't. If you ever feel like you understand yourself completely but still can't change something about your life, then this video is for you. I want to be clear before I begin that this is not anti-therapy. Therapy has given me so much self-understanding, it's given me so much awareness of myself, but living here in Portugal has really enabled me to see that understanding something logically and actually enacting change in your life are completely different things. And that difference is what this video is all about. So lesson 1, for a lot of my life, I lived in a state of constant urgency. I found it really difficult to slow down, breathe deeply, or feel calm in my body, or to be honest, to feel my body at all. I was almost always rushing towards being finished, the next goal, the next achievement, whatever the next thing was on my to-do list. I also tried really hard to control everything. I wanted predictability, structure, clear timelines, plans that worked exactly the way that I expected them to, probably because I felt so chaotic inside. Looking back, this little combination of feelings meant that I was just in a constant state of dysregulation in my nervous system. And when you live in that state, it becomes really difficult to make good, grounded decisions for yourself. So moving to Portugal changed this in a way that therapy never quite could, because Portugal is a country that does not reward that sort of mindset. This kind of rushing around, expecting things to be as exactly in your mind. Things move really differently here. Appointments don't run on time, and things like IMA do not rush for anyone. And the bureaucracy can be a bit unpredictable. The rules change all the time. Processes seem to shift and alter a little bit. And generally, people tend to be far more relaxed about schedules, about rigid routines and that sort of thing. And at first, when I moved here, this was a little bit challenging for my predictability-loving brain. But I already knew that this way of living, the kind of constantly trying to control, was really exhausting my nervous system. And so living here in Portugal over the last 9 months has given me the opportunity to confront this pattern of behaviour and to actually make a change. So it's pushed me to practice things that I learned cognitively in therapy and that I understood in my mind, but that I never really figured out how to embody before. And it taught me this beautiful balance between not giving up or being passive, but accepting that some things are just outside of your control, and learning how to be present with life as it unfolds, breathe more deeply, to move more slowly, and I felt less rushed. I noticed that I could actually just sit still without feeling like something was wrong or that I should be doing something, that I could just exist in a different way. And this shift from constant control to allowing life just to happen, or to surrendering a little, has probably done more for my nervous system than anything else. Years of therapy, being really aware cognitively, Portugal has changed this. But this nervous system stuff is kind of just the beginning, because when your body calms down, your patterns become very, very difficult to ignore. So on to lesson 2. So, lesson 2. I've pretty much been in a relationship since I was like 14 years old. Genuinely, I've really never been alone. Shout out to Adam with the Mohican, who took me on a date to the cinema and bought me a heart necklace for Valentine's Day when we were like 10 years old. It's probably been downhill since. Anyway, at this point in my life, I have had years of my own therapy, trying to understand my inner world, and I've even trained as a psychologist and worked with other people to help them build healthier relationships. I really know my attachment style inside out. I know that I overgive. I know that I fear abandonment, and I have explored it from literally every possible angle. Therapy, psychology, the alternative, things like astrology, human design, all of it. I know it all on a cognitive level, but understanding something mentally is really, really not the same as it being embodied in practice, in real life. And that's something that no amount of kind of theory or therapy really prepared me for. And then suddenly last September, I was single, I was in a new country with nobody familiar around me, no relationship to hide in, no social structure that I already knew, just me with none of my usual coping strategies. And it was so uncomfortable because All of these patterns that I'd understood intellectually started actually showing up more once I had space or stillness and time. And I just had to kind of feel them and experience them instead of running away or distracting myself from them. It helped that I actually wasn't able to leave the country because I don't yet have my residency card, so I couldn't run away. And when you're alone in a new place, you can't really hide from yourself in the same way, especially combined with the slower pace of life that Portugal has brought for me. And so Portugal didn't really just teach me about relational patterns, it exposed them. And then I had to choose to do something different. So when those things came up, I had to say, like, what do I actually want from my life? What do I actually want from a partner? What do I actually want from relationships with people? What am I no longer willing to tolerate or to be around? And when I started doing this and then I started dating, something super interesting happened because my nervous system had slowed down so much. I was really able to see myself and my needs in a relationship clearly. And the way I experienced attraction has actually changed. Like in the past, intensity for me felt like chemistry. But what I realized that a lot of this chemistry feeling was actually just my nervous system recognizing something familiar, even if that wasn't really healthy. So living here in Portugal gave me enough space and enough calm to start recognizing the difference between genuine connection and anxiety, which honestly I'm quite amazed about because I didn't really think it was possible for me to get to this sort of place, having such a dysregulated nervous system, living somewhere like London, being like really disconnected from my body. And it was really uncomfortable at first to realize the ways I've changed, the things that I've chased or desired before. But it's really allowed me to explore what it looks like to meet people from a healthier place, I guess, a more securely attached place. And I've met a few really amazing people through dating, even though they haven't been necessarily right for me. They've really shown me what was possible, what a healthy relationship might look like. So, lesson 3. A few years ago, I had what I can only describe as an existential crisis. Maybe a little bit of a wobble, a small meltdown, and I met a guy who lived his life in a really alternative way. He was an artist, an actor, a dancer, a spiritual type of person. And it was really my first introduction to someone who just lived life totally differently to what I'd thought about, what I'd known already. And I started questioning everything, my career, where I lived, basically every aspect of my life. I realized that the life blueprint that I had been following wasn't kind of an inevitable thing. It was learned. And for most of my life, I didn't really question the structure of things, the world around me that much. Like many people, I grew up absorbing a certain kind of idea of what life was supposed to look like, where I should live, what kind of career I should pursue, how my life should progress, and when I should settle down, what that should look like. And none of these things were presented typically as choices. They were kind of presented as the path, like the thing that you do. And for a long time, I just followed that without really questioning it. So I'd figured this out mentally before I left the UK, but actually moving to Portugal forced me outside of this blueprint physically. And I think that when you move to another country, something interesting happens where you suddenly realise that what you thought was normal life, that everyone did, was actually just one version of it. Different countries organise things differently, they value different things move at different paces, different speeds. And being in Portugal showed me the way that I'd been living before, the pace, the priorities, the pressure. It wasn't necessarily like a universal thing. It was cultural. Once you see that, it's really difficult to unsee it. You realise that a lot of what we think about life is actually not as fixed as we think, and it's actually just social expectations that we've absorbed, maybe without questioning. Stepping outside of that environment gave me the space to realise something really liberating, that life is far more flexible than we're taught. So if Portugal was my Matrix red pill, it wasn't about uncovering some hidden truth about the world. It was simply realizing that the script that I'd been following for my life wasn't necessarily mandatory, and I get to write my own version instead. So, therapy let me read the map, but Portugal gave me the destination. It made the intellectual embodied, it slowed me down enough to actually feel things instead of just understanding them in my mind. It stripped away distractions, so I had really nowhere to hide from my own patterns of relating. And it showed me that the life that I'd been living before was a choice that I'd never really consciously made. But you don't have to move countries to do this, right? Like, you can change something in your environment if you're unhappy, being more aware, being more conscious of the environment, the people that are in it, who is impacting you, what is impacting you, and making small changes to create a better environment for yourself. I would really love to know if any of this resonates with you. Have you ever understood something about yourself kind of logically that's difficult to actually change in real life? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one of them. And if you want more of this kind of content, the inner work, the Portugal life, all of it, subscribe and like the video, and there's a lot more coming. Thank you so much for watching. Sending so much love to you.